Shambho, Mahadev, Mahadev, Mahadev. So we said about the gross body. Gross body of whom? Whose gross body? When we address gross body, it is whose gross body?
Jivatma.
Okay. Atma's gross body. This Atma's gross body, not your body, eh? Atma's gross body, which is constituted with 5 elements. They called it the Virat. The 5 elements with their effects. That's a gross body of the Atman. We had been talking about the description of the identity and behavioral pattern of the gross body constituting with the Indriyas and the Mana last time. To some extent, not complete, to some extent. This gross body has the characteristics of the effects of 5 elements. The elements and their effects. It is not only 5 elements. Pancha Bhuta means Bhuta is not only the metal or material. We must understand that. It's not a dead material. Like you take gold and melt it and make different shapes. It cannot be compared with that. It's not like that. It's not that taking it out and melting it and different shapes are made. Here in this Pancha, that's why it is known as Bhuta. Bhuta, in everything there is prana. In everything there is life. Everything has got a characteristic. It's a tattva. It's not only a material. Yes. From the gold ornament, if I can take out the gold, I can melt it and take out. But by whatever process you disintegrate the body, you cannot physically take out earth, water and fire and akasha. Why? Can you? You got what I said? Why? It's not a dead material assembled together. No. So the gross body, that's why it is known as gross body. Tattva. That's why we call it as elements. Tattva. It has got a character. It has got a Swabhava. It's got its characteristics. Yes. This is why it is known as the Bhuta. Bhuta has got a characteristic. These characteristics are the ones which are the causes of the mixture, bonding material. How the air, water and fire and the earth elements are merged together because of their Swabhava. It cannot be tasted, it cannot be identified, it cannot be seen. Even if through microscopic analysis of any modern science, you cut a piece of body and then look at it and you provide it for the experiments. Can you divide earth from that body? Can you divide air from that body, water from that body? No, it's not possible. Yes, so there is a difference. So the gross body is the tattva of the pancha. That's why the pancha bhutas is why it is known as the gross body. In English they call it as gross body, elements and their effects. Elements and their effects put together is the gross body. We called it as pancha bhutas. It is inherent tattva. We don't have to explain when I say that pancha bhuta. It's not the metals or material, five material. It is the pancha bhuta, pancha tattvas. The pancha tattvas is the body. So this has to be cleared. Now people will say, okay, air goes to air, earth goes to earth, fire goes to fire. But what is that fire? What is that air? What is that earth going? Even though it is, you might be thinking it is basics and minute, these basics we do not know. You ask many people may not know. They will be talking about the Panchbhutas. When the tattva is dissolved in the tattva is always dissolved in the tattva. If it is a metal, it has to be joined with a metal. No. It has to be joined. It will not merge with the other one. It has to be added to that. Suppose you take gold from here, gold from there, it adds and it multiplies. Suppose this is 1 gram and this is 1 gram, it becomes 2 grams. Okay? 1 crore people die. The Agni Tattva is X grams. Vayu Tattva is Y grams. No? Neither it reduces nor it increases. How much of oxygen we are drawing every day from the atmosphere? There has to be a replenishing system. Is it compensating? That replenishing keeps on, no? Neither it reduces nor it increases. Yes. When you go to dense forest, okay, if you measure, you will find that oxygen oxygen content in the air is more. This can be identified. That is only localized. I am not talking about it. I am talking about the universe. The consumption of oxygen and the production of oxygen in the universe. So when the death is taken place, even 1 crore people die, it doesn't make any difference. 1 crore people is born, doesn't make any difference to the universe. Does the weight in the bhumi increases? Many of the when we say that, no? The weight in the bhumi, when so many people are born, will the weight in the bhumi is increasing? It's not increasing. Neither it is reducing, nor it is increasing. It's that principle. They are all the principle. Why is it not increasing? Because in totality, the tattvas are same. It is not taken out. It is a part of it. What I am talking about, that layam that takes place when the metal 1 gram is added to 1 gram, it becomes 2 gram. But when crores of people die or crores of people born, it doesn't make any difference in quantum for the tattvas, pancha tattvas, bhutas. That's why they are known as bhutas. So the layam, that's why we call it as layam. Air goes to air, fire goes to fire. We said that, no? How is it going? Physically it is not going. The tattva is having the quality of layam. That's why it has got a Swabhava. It's got a Swabhava. The layam takes place. When the water evaporates, it goes to the water. That's all. The water evaporates, it goes to water only. It doesn't go anywhere else. So, the gross body. So this is tattva. So these are the why we are understanding this. The panchikaranam has to be understood in very clear manner, so that these meditations, when we are talking about body, we should identify the body. The panchatattvas are not different particles put together and added. It's not that. They are the tattvas. Being a tattva, there is a characteristics for the body. That's why there is a characteristic for the body. When you eat, it grows. When you don't eat, it doesn't grow. Now, these characteristics of the body, or during the age process of when you are born and when you are growing to Yauvana, when you go to Vardhakya, when you go to this degeneration process and generation process, whatever you call it, these processes are taking place because it is not because of the metal or material, it is because of the tattva. Gold, there are preserved, you have read that in the papers, that some few hundreds of years ago, when Maharaja travelled from here to some place and the plane crashed and all the gold, he was going for his daughter's marriage to, where it is, Philippines or somewhere, I don't know which country, somewhere. It seems it crashed and then the whole gold and materials lying down, and they found out, I think. Do you remember that? Yes, something came in the newspapers. They unearthed all these things and they found all the wedding jewelleries of Indian costume in some other country. I don't know which country it is. I am not very sure. But
It's buried in the snow, Baba.
Yeah,
in the snow. Okay, fine. In the snow. The principle is that what I am saying is that it has not degenerated. Is what I come to that point. Of course, other things are not very important. It has not degenerated. Had it been a human being, you cannot make out. Certain particles are there which are bones and all, which takes longer time to disintegrate, but it will disintegrate. But you won't find. Why? Tattvas, jiva, tattva, prana. Can you find the prana? What I am saying, you see, you have to have a clear concept of it, even though you know it. I don't deny that. It's a very simple thing. Anybody understands it. It's not that. But I just remind you that because of the incident, what we are explaining, it demands an explanation of that. So this is tattvas, pancha tattvas. That is why it is not only material, that even though we call it as material science, it is not only the material what we are talking about. The earth in us, the particle of earth in us and the particle of earth is made out, the ghada, the mud pot is made of, they are different. One is called the material, that which disintegrates into material. The mud, when mud pot broken, this also disintegrates after some time. It gets into the earth. But that earth is merging with the earth because of the weathering conditions of like fire, sun and water together, and they added to the earth. You take out from one portion the earth and make mud, so much of earth is reduced from there and brought it here. It is shifted from one place to other. It's not that it is balance is same. The total earth is same, but I have shifted it from the raw earth to the form and shape of earth. And the form and shape of earth again becomes the earth of that. But human, Panchabhuta is not like that, is what I am saying. Panchabhuta is not that. Panchabhuta remains as it is. Even though I am seeing a shape and form, any time, any moment, it can be diluted into the atmosphere, or which is in the invisibility. The form and shape is because of the creation of combination of all these put together and then structured on a particular bones, structured on the bones and kept it way, so you are able to identify this Bhuta. Okay. Like you see the Mragatrishna, we call it, or in the desert you see the mirage. Yes, it's Mragatrishna. It's a mirage, okay. From there only mirage, I think, has been taken. Mragatrishna. You can see that suddenly there is water at a distance, you see. When you go there, you are not able to see that. What is that? There is a form and shape visible with whatever reason. It's because of the heat, it is because of the vaporization and things like that, whatever scientific explanation, you can say that. But you are creating, you have a form and shape, that's why you are seeing it. There is a form and shape. But when you go closer, that form and shape is not visible because you are too close. Focusing is out of focus, it goes. But there is there is that. Almost like that, our body is also same. That's a tattva. So the disintegration is very easy. So do not think that it is, we are carrying something. It is because of that, okay. There are different shapes and forms. Okay, not go further detail in that, because its gross body is a virata, that gross body. And in the gross body that is dwelling, the Atman is called the gross body, the 5 elements. In that we told about the waking state. In the waking state, it gives it rises the knowledge. It gives the knowledge of the objects. What we call it as objects. Different shapes and forms are created because of friction, because of evolutions. Different forms of shapes have taken place. So, knowing waking state is that where senses give rise to the knowledge of the material. The senses, who is giving the knowledge? Sense. It's a sensory system which no other system can identify the material. The senses give rise to the knowledge of objects. It's called a waking state. That's called waking state. Senses give rise to the knowledge of objects is called the waking state. That's called waking. Who gets awakened here? Waking means what? What is that waking? The waking is that only for the purpose of identification, of the objects, the Atma, yes, which has an inherent knowledge, Atma, which has got an inherent knowledge, when it is percolated, when it is dwelling there, naturally it has got an impact, the aura. Suppose I keep fire burning here. At a distance, you can feel the temperature. Is it not? Even though the fire is here. Because it transmits, it is Swabhava of the Agni is to radiate heat and light. Same way, the Swabhava of the Atma is to radiate the knowledge. So when this knowledge is radiated, where is the Swabhava? Where is the Panchabhutas? It is not visible because it's a Tattva. Where is the Atma? Also Tattva. It's not visible. That invisible Atma which has got an inherent quality because it is a self-identified and self-produced, self-assimilated unit is called Atma. So it doesn't require any support. So that has a characteristic Swabhava of radiation of the Jnanam from that automatically. As I told you about the Jnanam from the third eye and things like that, which Swabhava is constantly projecting. It doesn't stop. Like sunlight cannot be stopped. This constantly projects. When this is projecting, because of the Jnanam being projected into the Panchabhutas, which is called as gross body, automatically a creation, even though the Panchabhutas has got a Swabhava of integrating and disintegrating, is a Swabhava of the Panchabhutas, integrating and disintegrating, plus it has got its own knowledge, its own sensory system. That's why it is able to integrate and disintegrate. But it is not equivalent to the Atma what I am talking about. Do you get it? These explanations have to be really understood. So it has got its own knowledge. The gross body, the Panchabhutas has got its own knowledge, is why it is able to integrate and disintegrate. It is not, otherwise it is not possible. It has got a bonding capacity by itself. Now since it has got a knowledge of their own, and an additional knowledge from the Atma is radiated into the Panchabhutas, this knowledge are transformed into sensory system. Able to sense. Who feels it? The body feels it and the mind feels it. Yes, intellect feels it. That's called feeling. You see? Why it is a feeling? It is because it is the radiation of the Atma. The Jnanam from the radiation of the Atma is radiating into the Jnanam of the Panchabhutas. So having a combination of the Jnanam from the Atma and a combination of Jnanam from the Panchabhutas, they transform themselves into a sensory system which is capable of identifying the objects and the objectives. Is it clear? That's all. The body feels the touch. The body feels. Who makes it possible? Atma. If Atma is not there, a dead body, even though it will be disintegrating in few hours' time after that, a dead body, even though it has its own knowledge, but its knowledge is only for integrating and disintegrating, not for the sensations and sensory system. When the Atma passes out, your body, whatever body it is, it doesn't feel anything. You touch, you burn, nothing feels. You see why? So who has given that the quality of feeling for the body, for the gross body, is that the radiation from the Atma, which has it's not only pure radiation, because that's very pure conscious, concentrated form of I'm using a wrong usage, but let me put it that way. A concentrated form of knowledge being transmitted or emitted from the Atma gets into the knowledge of the Panchabhutas. In the combination of these two, the transformation takes place. Immediately a transformation takes place. They become this knowledge in the sensor, in the knowledge in the gross body turns into sensory system, transforms into sensory system is how the gross body identifies the sensory system. Is it okay? Is why, now I'm just taking you somewhere and bring you back. Okay. Is why we say through the process of meditation and positive thinking, we are able to heal diseases in the body. The sensory system can be changed, is it not? How? You understood now? When you concentrate, when you do meditation, the meditation energy that is created through the mind with the perception of knowledge, that comes later, okay, with a person's perception of knowledge of relaxation to the physical gross body system. When the gross body system relaxes, what is the relaxation? It's a very big science. We won't be able to understand. We think it's very simple. The moment you start meditating, the mind directs the body to go into state of relaxation. What do you mean by relaxation? What is that word relaxation? According to Vedanta. Don't try to look into the dictionary. You won't find it.
The sense organ should not respond.
Almost like that. Yes. What is that? The relaxation in the sense organs should not respond. Okay, is what? Yeah, correct. Then only the relaxation, the way the sense organ is responding, we keep on, the sensory system is active, you will be knowing things, and physically knowing things. It should not happen. I am talking into the principles of it. Okay, that's correct. Okay. Now what happens? When you do meditation, what happens is that the radiation from the knowledge, from the jnanam, the knowledge from the jnanam which is being projected into the sensor, into the panchabhutas, which has transformed into sensory system, is diverted from there to the mind, so that the mind can relate it to Atma. Body has been related to Atma because of the projection of Jnanam from the Atma. The same thing what he has done, diverted from here and started projecting it to the Mana, and the Mana started relating it to Atma. So the sensory system of the mind, let me put it that way, even though it's not there, the sensory system of the mind is related with the Atma and connected with the Atma, and since Mana doesn't have a sensory system to experience by itself as the gross body, the mind turns into Atma. Is why during meditation we say the feeling of the body will not be there and it gets isolated. That's the reason why it is. You got it? What is the process? This is what happens, okay? That's how it should happen, rather than only. That's why the body, that's how the Maharishis and Tapasvis are able to detach from them. We say that he can detach from the body very easily. He identifies his body and the Atma as separate. These are the words we use, no? Normally, yes. How does he identify the body and Atma separate? Only because of the projection from the Jnanam, from the projection from the Atma. He is in a position to withdraw it at any point of time due to his tapo phala and the technique of the technique of diverting the knowledge from anywhere to anywhere. See? And the same technique of knowledge he transmits it to the whole universe, and he identifies everything that is going to happen and what is happening, and he keeps it. See? Keeps it in the sense. He becomes the part of the Atma, which is the knowledge, which is the part of the universe. That's all. It's the gross. Now you see the gross body, how it is connected, how it is functioning. So that is the gross body, which is Atma. So waking state, we said about the waking state is that where the senses rise, rise to the knowledge of objects. Rise to the knowledge of objects. The knowledge of objects, knowing about the objects. That means in the sensory system. Yes. Why it is necessary? It is necessary. The sensory system having a gross body, if it doesn't have a sensory system, what is the use of being in the world? There is no experiment or experience can be done with this gross body by the Atma, even though it is the Atma who wants the experiencing done in this world, in this universe, but experiencing has to be done through the body also. It's one of the experiences. Body means body and mind. Of course, it's always like that. I told you that. In Vedanta, when we say body and mind has to be considered. So the experiencing has to be done through the sensations and the feelings. There are so many activities connected to this Panchabhutas which has to be executed through sensations and the feelings. There has to be a feeling is a perception of sensory system, and sensation is a physical characteristics of sensory system. Touching, when you touch, it is you being feel is called the karmendriya, and the feeling of the touch, whether it is soft or hard or hot or cold or whatever X and Y, is the perceiving capacity, the perception. It's a jnanendriya. So, karmendriya and the jnanendriya. Both are necessary. Who attends? Both are the projection from the Atma. Both the knowledges are projection from the Atma. One knowledge which has been transformed into sensory system to the gross body identifies the physical characteristics of the objective knowledge, and the mind identifies the inherent knowledge of the material. One is the physical knowledge, another is the inherent knowledge. This knowledge is identified by the mind. So the touch is soft, the touch is hot, the touch is cold. No? This identification of the perception of the mind. Now, the mind has got, depending upon the capacity of the knowledge perceived from the Atma to the mana, the intensity of the cold and hot changes. I'm going into very much deep into the system, physical system, which has to be necessary to understand this panchikaranam. That's what here we say, Om, Om. Yo havai jeshtam cha shreshtam cha, we said. How it is shreshta? Who is shreshta? Who is jeshta? Got it? I am connecting that. Shreshtam cha, jeshtam cha. Shreshta is that Atma. Is it Atma? Shreshtam is Jnanam. Is Jnanam Shreshtam? No, again we are coming. Not yet finished. You see. We are going on. Who is Shreshta? Jeshta we can understand. No, Shreshta, who is Shreshta? We are still going on. Sensory system, a physical sensory system, is identified by the sensory system created by the Panchabhutas depending upon the necessity of the Panchabhutas. As far as the Panchabhuta is concerned, he has to experience the touch, that's all. Now whether it is rough or soft, this is minds. How? Now the mind being the one who has got the characteristics of the jnanendriya, that means the one who is perceiving the experiences, more subtle the experience. The experiences are going from coarser to subtle, and subtle to subtle, sukshma to sukshma, then matra, anu, paramanu, like that it goes. 24 particles of that, 24 divisions into paramanu, which is unidentifiable. It has to, the experience will go into unidentifiable. Till then it has to travel. In order to travel that, these differences have to be there. So the mana, which has got a perception instrument of perception, which has got a higher intensity, sensory system in the mana is much more minute and much more intense than the sensory system of the Panchabhutas. Depending upon why it is different, why not it is here? No. Depending upon the necessity and function of each and every instrument, the capacity also has been provided to accordingly. Because Panchabhutas cannot sustain the knowledge beyond that, it is not possible. So whatever is possible and whatever is, that's why there are so many combinations had to be made. So many things, so many layers have to be made. It is like a filtration plant in the water plant. I've seen nowadays of course all modernized and machines are there, but still it is the same principle only. Principle is the same. Whether you make a candle for water filter or whether you make something else. What is that water filter? Original water filter? In our filtration plants, old filtration plants, have you noticed? There are big tanks. And in the tanks, at the bottom, there will be one layer of sand. Then there will be small, no, 1/4, that may 1/8 inches and 1/4 inches gravel will be there. Clean gravel. Then again a layer of sand will be there. Then again 1/2 inch gravel will be there for one layer. It's about 300 millimeter thick. Then again sand will be there. Then again one coarser, say 1.5 inches to 2 inches, the coarser material of the rocks will be there. Now the water is poured on that. See? In the coarser one, see, number of layers. In the coarser one, the major, obstacles like bones, dead bodies, and all will get arrested there. Okay, will get stopped. Now the water penetrates down below. You see, it comes to the coast. There's a little more finer. In that, a little more finer screening is done. And again through the sand, again finer ones. Like that, finer, the finest. Ultimately, the fine sand through which the water is clean, and then when you take out the water, absolutely clean. You see, water filtration. So many layers it has to pass through so that it gets cleaned. Same way, in order to identify a sense and have the experience of it, and then from that experience derive a knowledge out of it. It's not only a material experiencing. I have to derive why I touch. I have to derive a knowledge out of it. This knowledge has to be created. Now knowledge has to be produced. After going to the mind, it has to go to the intellect, it has to go to the ego center, it has to go to the intellect, it has to go to the super consciousness, higher consciousness, then to the, through Udana it goes to the Jivatma, then to the Atma, then only that experience, the total experiencing takes place. And that also is incomplete because that Atma is unable to dissolve it. Why? Because the experience that has been collected is wrong. Now he has to take a rebirth into another system, filtration plant, and filter all this until the time it identifies itself with the Atma, because what is projected by the knowledge, by the Atma? The pure knowledge. The Atma is projecting the pure knowledge to the sensory system, to the Panchabhutas. They transformed it into the sensory system. Projected the pure knowledge to the mana, it identified into the capacity for identification. It projected the pure consciousness into intellect to have ego only to identify these things. And then it projected the same pure consciousness into the Antaratma, the same way. But when it returns back, the same knowledge that was projected by the Atma in the initial stage to the system has to be brought back, then only it will merge. As I told you, layam, then only it will happen to the Atma, then only the Atma get relieved and released, we say. If it is not the same knowledge, same quality of, let me put it that way, same quality of knowledge, what happened? It has a projection, it doesn't get layam into that, it's an addition to it. So this attachment has to be converted into layam. So in order to get this attachment converted into layam, the pure consciousness, again an experiencing of object experiencing is necessary, is why it has to take another body and then live through. Even though it is not necessary for me to tell you all this, because it's only explaining Om. But they are the part of it. Unless we identify this, how we go into the detail, at least to this much of details, even though there are so much of details. Again, further details are there. At least this much is good enough, I believe. So to have the rise of the knowledge of the objects. Knowledge of the objects are necessary for experimental experiences. Purification process, as I told you, filtration plant of water, always keep in mind. So you will get a complete idea of it. Is it necessary to filter the water? It is. Yes. If there is already filtered water, then it is not necessary. But it's not there. If already these experiences are there in the Jivatma would not have been there. So the question of experimental experience is not at all there. Yes. How the Jivatma is born? How the water has become dirty? Is the rainwater dirty? How the water has become dirty? Now let me tell you. Is the earth dirty? Originally. Is the earth dirty? Is the rain dirty? Is the water dirty? Is the rain dirty? Is the cloud dirty? Is the atmosphere, Vayu, is dirty? Nothing is dirty. But then what happened? Lots of evolutions were there due to whatever reasons. We call it as factory. We call it as factory waste. We call it as air pollution and this pollution, that pollution. They are all byproducts. But what is the principle? In principle, what happens? Anything that is stagnated, any energy that is stagnated, that not been used, circulated, will have to get contaminated. Is it not? Held up energy will create destructive. Idle mind. Oh, is it a proverb now?
Is it
Devil's workshop. When the mind is working, the workshop is same, but the devil has gone. The God has come. Workshop is same. There is a workshop. But when it is idle, it is devil. So same principle applies here. Anything that is stagnant, knowledge, if it is not distributed, is stagnant, it gets polluted. Dhanam, too much of dhanam. It's not circulated. It gets stagnant. It will create problem. Anything that's stagnation, any stagnation will create, what is that? Contamination. The contamination is from where the contamination has come? It creates itself. See? How the purification takes place? It creates itself. You understood why I am saying this? So anything, any action, any karma, any purification has to come at its own action, from your own action, from your own thought. You have to think, you have to create the thought, you have to purify your thought, you have to act according to that. Then only these purifications can come. You understood? That's what is called contamination. Who contaminated the first water droplet? Who contaminated the first air, cusecs of air? Who contaminated? Who contaminated our mind? Forget about air and water. Okay, this is which we do not know. So many years ago it has happened. When you are born, who contaminated? After your birth, who contaminated your mind? Who contaminated your body? Forget about anything else. When you are born, you are not absolute pure consciousness. Representation of pure consciousness. God has given. That's what I said. Atma projects the pure knowledge to the sensory system. Sensory system transforms it into the sensory system of the gross body. Sensory system, it's not sensory system, okay. The system of the mind or the system of the intellect, system of the antakarana, system of the antaratma. They convert this pure knowledge to suit their requirement, depending upon, not that's because of their choice, no, depending upon their capabilities and capacities, that's all. He cannot do it. You ask the body, gross body, to convert that pure jnanam as the mind is converting to its capacity, he'll say, I can't do it. I don't have capacity, inherent instrumental capacity is not there. I have got only this. So, and I need only this. So, depending upon the necessity, need, depending upon the need, everyone is provided the capability to transform the jnanam into the utility part of the sensory system. Is why each and every, you got it? Why otherwise, why somebody is not good? It's not good. There's questions now. Depending upon the pure consciousness when it is radiates. So where did I stop in between? So when the pure consciousness is radiated into the systems, various systems, depending upon its capacity, it is transforming necessity. So how the contamination takes place? The contamination takes place that when it is not utilized for the purpose of that what has been transformed, it gets contaminated by its own wrong function. What is contamination? A wrong function. It's a contamination. A right function is not a contamination. When the river water flows, it's pure, it's clean, we say. For puja we take river water. The same river water is stopped contaminated. No? For some time it gets contaminated. That water should not be used for puja. Contaminated already. That means the transformed energy or the transformed jnanam that has been given projected by the Atma has to be constantly utilized in order to identify the Atma. In order to identify the Atma, then only the transformation will come complete, then only that purity will remain same, so that contamination will not take place. The purity will remain same. What is the purity? Purity is that when it goes back to Atma, when it gets a layam, that means it is pure. That means when the knowledge transmitted from the Atma to the gross body, to the sensory system, when it has been transformed to suit the capacity and requirement of the gross body, to suit the capacity and requirement of the gross body has to function as it has been disciplined for. Is why dharmam. What is discipline? Dharmam. Gross bodies should be identifying the sensory system. Having the sensory system should enjoy in the sense receive the objective senses and just transmit it to the perceiving capacity, the perceiver who is the mind. That's all. He should not utilize the result of the objective experience by the sensory system of the gross body. The gross body is supposed to transmit this knowledge. Let me call it as knowledge. It is knowledge only. Experience. Okay. In other words, experience. When the sensory system of the gross body is getting an experience, that experience, without using it, as I told you, it has got its own intelligence. Without using its own intelligence or intelligence of the mind, it is just transmitting that experience to the mana, perceiver, the perceiving capacity. It is the duty of the perceiver by nature. It is not by intention. By nature, when analyzing, he projects the result to the sensory system also back, because this is the source of receiving the experience. The experiencer will also reflect it through that path so that the sensory system knows that is soft. For what? Not for enjoyment of the sensory system. The perceiver has transmitted to the sensory system, identified it as soft and transmitted to him so that next time when he experiences the same, he should identify it as soft or hard. And then he must purify. See, he has put an additional responsibility to him. So next time when he is transmitting this experience, he transmits the experience of soft touch. Earlier, the first time he said touch. So mind analyzed and said that from next time this is called soft. Okay, next time when he gets it, the sensory system transmit it soft. Fine. See, he has improvised it. So his job is slightly less. Mind's job is slightly less. That's all. Beyond that, It cannot. This only the analysis can be done. Beyond that, this cannot do and should not do. Okay. Now, having returned back the, see, where is the sin committed now? If this is the process, we are all excellent people. Then what happens? Now he knows, the sensory system knows, I'm just personifying it, that's all. See. Sensory system knows now I got a touch. I told him that I touch. And he told me it is soft touch. Oh, that's wonderful. He has given me an information. Next time he is asking, hey, give me a little more information. He give me little more information. He keeps on asking, The desire for knowing, enjoying the pleasure of the sensory system has been developed by him by adharmam. Why? If it is dharmam, he has just to listen and then again transmit soft, transmit hard. But he wants, how can I get this soft? Which are the objects from where I can get the soft? He is asking the next superior who knows the mind. Mind also doesn't know from where. Then he tries to, he being a superior, he tries to bluff him. He says, that's also soft, this is soft, this is soft. Enjoy anything that comes to you. Now he goes into different ways. Okay. Enjoyment by the sensory system. You understood what I'm talking about? This is called enjoyment by the sensory system, the pleasures and pains. If the mind knows which is exactly soft, he should tell that. No, he says that, oh, you touch that and see, you touch that and see. So what happens? Here, oh, it is pleasure. Oh, here it is pain. You see? He doesn't know because he doesn't know also. You got it? Something like that? Yeah? Something like that. This is how the pleasure and pain, without identification, we are getting pleasure and pain. Even though we are expecting pleasure, we get pain. Why? Because it's an experimental. That's why it is known as experimental experience. So the sensory system that is created depending upon its capacity and requirement. Sensory systems, capacity and requirement, the jnanam has already projected. But it doesn't have the capacity more than that. So he absorbed that much of jnanam. So he can only identify that sensory system and transmit it to dharmically. That means without taking advantage of it. I explained this in our earlier lessons about the honey bee collecting honey from the flower and taking it the queen. Without an involvement in it. Sensory system should not get involved into the experimental experiencing. Experimenting, he has to involve, but experiencing should not be. Experiencing in the sense, the experiencing of the result he should not experience. The experiencing has to be transmitted dharmically to the antakarana or the mana, whatever it is. Now, mana has got different responsibilities. I am talking about the gross body now. Is how we are not sure of what is called the sensory system, which is a pleasure and which is a pain. See, that's what we are unable to identify. Why? We cannot identify. Number of janmas people have taken birth, is not. Even today, you ask somebody what is pleasure and what is pain, they cannot tell. We should have known by this much of number of times of birth has taken place. Is there any standard? Somebody should have written there. No, this is called pleasure, this is called pain. And from this the pleasure can be derived, from this the pain can be derived. No. The pleasure becomes pain and the pain becomes pleasure. Even today, confused, is it not? Is there any standardization on that? There is no standardization on that. Standardizations are tailor-made, depending upon the karmas, the standardization is created. There is no standardization as it is in the Prakriti. In Prakriti, there is only one standardization. Why? Because there is no standardization of pleasure and pain. Why? Because there is no standardization required for pleasure and pain because sensory system is not supposed to understand that. The sensory system is understanding, is supposed to take the information as a pleasure. Everything is as a pleasure. As I told you in Vedanta, everything is enjoyment of mind, we say. The pain is an enjoyment. Somebody is suffering. That fellow should have it. What is that? Enjoyment of the... Somebody is painful. Is it not a pleasure of pain? Huh? How is it possible? How is it possible? Somebody is suffering and I am enjoying on somebody's suffering. How can it be called as... Is there a standardization? What I am talking about, there is no standardization is what I am talking. Pleasure. Somebody has grown, who has got a beautiful child and he is living very happily. My God, how did he get that much of happiness? I am in pain. He is in pleasure. The pleasure has turned out to be pain to me and pain has turned out to be pleasure to me. You got my point? Now which is pleasure, which is pain? No standardization depending upon the karma. You got my point, what I am trying to tell you? Is how this is happening. Why? Why this is happening? Why? Because you are misusing the sensory system for a wrong way, for enjoyment of that particular sensory system. Whether it is mind or the gross body. Ultimately the mind. Gross body is an agent, that's all. Okay. Yes. But I am just explaining even the gross body has a desire. But it's the mind who has got a desire. Gross body is used for the mind's fertility and infertility. That's all. Is it not? Mind is using it. Why? Why? Only for explaining these things I have created certain usages which is not normally done, but it's only for the purpose of education. That's all. Understanding. For purpose of knowledge. Academic knowledge. So this utility of that, this is called dharmam. What is dharmam? Just experience it. It is soft. Because he has told it is soft, it is soft. It is soft. The soft I am transmitting to you. That's all. Now don't ask, give me the pleasure what you are enjoying from the softness to me also. Is called the enjoyment of sensory system. So a desire is divided here also, participated here also, which is not supposed to be done. According to Dharmam, it is not supposed to be done. Here, why he is transmitting this? Because it is a bribe. Mind is giving a bribe to the gross body in order to have that. More and more of that particular, because he cannot enjoy otherwise. So he is using the gross body. Hey gross body, you do the same act so that I can enjoy more pleasure and give some bribe to the sensory system. You also enjoy a little bit also. In different words. It's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. Yes, how? Now you got it. How the sensory system functions. It's very important because during meditation we will have all these things. Yes. Then only we can eliminate it. Then only we can renounce it. Why we are unable to renounce it? We don't have the jnanam of it. That's why we are unable to renounce it. The gross body cannot be renounced. Why? Because we don't have the jnanam of the Swabhava of the gross body. That's why. Now you understand what is the Swabhava of the gross body. Any moment it can be disintegrated according to your wish. If you want to release yourself, like tapasvis and jnanis, any moment he wants, he can eject the body and go. Why? Why? Because he knows this is what is it. It's a gross body. So he says the waking state. We are talking about the waking state. The waking state, that's sensory system. That is awareness of the sensory system. The waking state is where the senses give rise to the knowledge of the objects. Senses give rise to the knowledge of the objects. The knowledge, why we require the objective knowledge, I have told you. The objective knowledge is adding to that. I told you the process of the objective knowledge, how we are getting the objective knowledge. Now, what is the purpose of objective knowledge? I have only told the experience of the objective knowledge or object. Now, why that objective knowledge is necessary? And then only we have to have the sensory system. If I don't require an objective knowledge, this sensory system is not required. Half of the botheration is out. But why I require? I require. Why? Because I need experimental experience. Through this objective knowledge only, I will be learning the process of renunciation. The process of dharmam can be understood. Where it cannot be understood by the trees and plants and the animals, even though they have only one emotion or one object, is that one is called a pleasure, one is called a pain, that's all. But for a human being, what happens? From the pain, now I am talking about the waking state, principles, now so long experiences. Now from the pain, I derive sadness. Is it not? From the pain, I derive sadness. Sadness is not a characteristic of the sensory system of the gross body. Yes, it is the sensory system, it's a characteristic of the mind. So from the pain, I create sadness, I create depression, I create pleasure, somebody's pain, I create pleasure, I create pain, I create jealousy, I create hatred, I create all that. From one experience. Am I right? From this sensory system, experience of the sensory system, only a human being can derive all this. Cow doesn't go into depression. It has pain. It has pain and pleasure. These are the only two things there. Somebody beats him, he gets a pain, no doubt about it. Tree, when you cut the tree, it's painful to the tree. It gets a pain. But he doesn't have a feeling, hatred, oh, this man has cut me, I will kill him. Tree doesn't have that. He doesn't get into it, because he doesn't have a mind functioning. Yes. But he gets a pain. So, difference again. That is according to dharma it is going. You see, he gets a pain. Pain is not converted into any of the intelligent, intellectual analyses are not taking place there. Whereas in us, we have intelligence, intellectual, emotional, circumstantial, and what sort of analysis are all done by each individual depending upon that. So one experience can be, that's why one experience is a pleasure to somebody, the same experience is a pain to somebody, and that pain is converted into, the sadness and hatred and jealousy and things like that, and the same pleasure is also converted into jealousy and desire. Pleasure is also converting into jealousy and desire, also hatred, and also competitive. Oh, he got that, I should get it. This Matsarya. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This Matsarya comes from that. From where? That characteristics of that Matsarya comes from there. Everything is created. This Matsarya doesn't have any basis. Is there a basis for Matsarya? Is there any basis for desire? Is there any basis for jealousy? Somebody has got it. Finished, is it not? But what happened? My intelligence and intellect started calculating on the basis of the desire and the scarcity and insecurity I have. Now, you see, it's a subject where it is going now, widening vaster now. What's the reason of that jealousy? Insecurity. What is the request? What is the reason of the jealousy? Insecurity, hatred, feeling of not having it, scarcity. All these characteristics which is created, as I told you, contaminated water creates stagnant water becomes contamination, stagnant energy becomes contaminated. He doesn't identify the good that is being seen. The good that is being seen is contaminated in me, having stocked it here, stored it here, have contaminated it into jealousy, hatred and vengeance and this XYZ. Mother Matsarya. It's all converted into contamination. Who contaminated it? You. Not the object. You understood now? What is objective knowledge? Rising of the knowledge of the objects, we said. What is the knowledge of the objects? Happiness of that person. Blooming the flower in the garden is beautiful. The garden is beautiful. The flower is beautiful. The bees will get honey, and the air will get fragrant, and the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is drawn, and oxygen is released, beneficial, and the pleasure to the eyes. All the plus points. This should be finished. That's the end of it. That's called the knowledge of the objective knowledge and knowledge of the object. From that, what we derive, you see, how the flower is bloomed. What is the purpose of the flower? Why it is blooming, and why the honey is being taken by the bee. It's not only in that process of the taking, see how the nature has created, by the process of taking honey from the flower, taking it, his claws are collecting, those, and then pollination are taking place. When he goes into different flowers, pollination is taken place, and due to pollination, what happens? Further improvement takes place, even though it is unknowingly done. What happened? They never derive an ownership authority. Without me, you cannot bloom anymore, because I am the one who is now transmitting this, so that you don't get the pollination done. He doesn't. Why? Because he doesn't have the faculty of that mind, which the intellect, ahankara, only human being got the ahankara. Ahankara, in order to transmit or analyze it into, depending upon the insecurity, inefficiency, and scarcity and whatnot, depending on that, they can analyze it into sadness into it. On the other hand, without knowing what is happening around, the bee does its dharmam, taking the honey without even swallowing it, not even drop. Yes. As I explained to you earlier, just its dharmam is taking it and dropping it there. That's all. It is my dharmam, I complete it. Should be the sensory system doing it to us, or the mana should be doing to us. Then only it will have layam to the Atma. Then only that purity can be created. Then why it is not happening? Why it is not happening? Because the human being is taking birth after so many experiences of so many births of trees and plants and insects and this, that and all. Ultimately, as our Shastras and Puranas says that after so many yonis, it's a great opportunity that we get the life of a human being, which is being wasted. This human being's life is the one where you got all the facilities in order to expand your experimental experience, objective knowledge, you got, which they are restricted with. You got enormous experimental experience. You can become equivalent to God. What is that experimental experience? Like as I said, that when you are getting some experience, it should be dharmically transmitted to the mana, and mana should dharmically analyze it, and intellect should dharmically transmit it, so that it becomes absolutely transparent to the Atma and merges with the Atma, so it doesn't experience. For this, you require the amount of quality that is in you, that is necessary, is that you should not get attracted to the agents that makes the energy contaminated in you. Why this is happening? Because of the contamination. Now, that energy that is creating the contamination in you, that desire, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, These analyses by the mind should be utilized for the purpose of, as I told you, for the purpose of benefit of the improvement, not for the benefit of the demoralization. See? These qualities are necessary. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya is absolutely necessary for a human being in order to have a minutest, not a gross, a minutest analysis of the experimental experience, a minutest experimental experience of the objective knowledge. These instruments are absolutely necessary so that you can get, as I told you, from the bigger boulder to the 2 inches stone to the sand, finer sand, it has to come, then only the purification can be done. So you require so many layers of instruments that is necessary for purification. Same way, you got all this Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, like boulders, sand, gravel, and this, pebbles. Like that, they are all there. They are not meant for throwing it and hurting somebody. It is meant for filtering and making it absolutely pure. Use your Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya in order to filter those is called experimental experience. When it comes, purity takes place. Am I clear? Comparative, when you compare with that water purification, then you get it. Is why these have been given. Is why what is called as the knowledge of objects. The knowledge of object is not just whatever you think is the knowledge. It is the knowledge, that's all. You have to identify the knowledge, that's it. Identify the knowledge in the object, the objective experience. Through the objective experience, when you identify the knowledge, then the subjective progress takes place. Is why an objective knowledge is necessary. Is why a sensory system is necessary. A sensory system is necessary only to provide that knowledge in order to have progress to the subjective experiences so that it can be utilized for subjective experiences, not for objective pleasures. When objective pleasures are experienced, subjective progress and experience doesn't happen. It gets stagnant, more stagnant. More stagnation, more contamination. More contamination, asurigata. Simple. More contamination, asurigata. In order to remove asurigata, grinding. Not for idli and dosa, grinding in the life. It's called necessity of objective experience. It's not that it's not necessary. Every objective experience is necessary. But what happens? In every objective experience, if I am dharmically doing it, what will happen? I know, I have the knowledge, but I don't get involved into it. Like sensory system asking for it, that sensory system should not ask for it. All the 5 sensory system, asking for the pleasures of the sensory system. The pleasure of sense, you should understand one thing, when the sensory system is asking for the pleasure, that pleasure is only for the sensory system, it is not for the Atma. Don't you agree with me? Or do you agree with me? Oh, tell me. And I'll tell you something, that's why. The pleasure of the sensory system is not meant for the Atma. The pleasure and the pain of the Atma, the sensory system is only for the sensory system and not for the Atma. Am I right? Very good. That's the best way, no? Like what, simple. The sweetness of the rasagulla is only in the tongue up to 1 inch of the tongue, 1.5 inches. From here, It's a dead, I don't know what sort of some pulp. Whether that is Karela or whether it is Rasagulla, both are same from here downwards. As far as taste is concerned,
Yes.
not the quality. As far as the taste is concerned, isn't it? So where is the enjoyment? So who has get the enjoyment of the sensory system? Only the sensory system, not for the Atma. Got it? Am I right? That's what this example I wanted to tell you. That's why. Easy to understand, is it not? Very easy. This is how Atma doesn't get that benefit. Atma doesn't want your sweetness. Sweetness is wanted by tongue only. Stomach wants that milk cake, that's all. So that it gets proteins, it gets this, it gets that calcium, it gets whatnot, X, Y, Z. That's all. So in order to create that transparency to the Atma, the karma that is executed should be dharmic. Then why the sweetness has been given to Rasagulla and why the tongue has been given the what is it? Taste buds, if that is not required? It is required. It is required so that the sensory system identifies the quality of that through the taste also. As I told you, sensory system identify the softness, hardness, and then roughness and the softness, all this. So this is necessary. Same way, the tongue also has to identify that this is this is this, this is this, and when I am identifying this is this is, the characteristics of this will be like this, and characteristics of this will be like this. So these characteristics has to be noted down by the sensory system in order to provide whatever necessary quantity of that to the stomach or necessary quantity of that to the Atma. Only up to that extent it should be done, not asking for the enjoyment from the mana again back. That is why after one Rasagula, let me have one more, is because of the desire of the taste bud, desire of the sensory system, which is not necessary. Let me put it that way. Which is not necessary. It is necessary up to that. And during the process, during the process, that experience that is happening, which we call it as enjoyment of the sensory system, let him have it. It's a method in order to take sugar in the system. So when you are taking Rasagulla, the milk, the what is that, split milk, and the whatever ingredients are there, in order to take it easily, it has created an attraction of the sweetness, because sugar is also necessary. So along with that, sugar also goes, and each and everything is necessary for the body, so that is being taken. But desire for having it more and more will create more and more of imbalance of the sugar, more and more imbalance of this XYZ. That will create the contamination inside us. That will create contamination inside. That will create contamination for the Atma to absorb the experimental experience. Experimental experience should be restricted to absolutely, strictly only as experimental experience, not for experience. One is experimental experience, another is experience. Experience is unlimited. Experimental experience, only for the purpose of experiment, the experience should be done. So that's called dharma. Whatever may be wonderful, but the truth, as I told you, as we live only for the insecurities to be protected and securities to be brought in, instead of that, yes, what we should do, we should experience necessary. What is our dharma? What is our karma? Why are you born? What is the necessity of your birth? Is only for protection of that dharma. The true meaning of experimental experience has to be understood. Only for the necessity of that experimental experience, I have the experience through my waking state. Through the waking state, that is when the sensory system is awakened, and the waking state in the mind is identified. There is a sensory system in the gross body through which I can have the experience, is called the waking status. In that waking status, he should identify what should I experience from the object. The tattva of the object has to be identified. It's not the object has to be identified. The experience, objective experience, we said, not object. The objective experience, the knowledge of the objects, we said. The knowledge of the objects, when you identify, you will find most of the objects have got the same knowledge. This is the purpose for it. So when the sensory system is created, when the intellect is created, when the mana is created, where the antakarana, antaratma and ego center is created, they are all instruments to make you understand at one point of time that all the experimental experience of all the objects is one. That's a purpose. He has given you so many bifurcations, so many objects, so many different instruments, so many different objects, so much of different combinations and complications have been created so that you analyze through your ego center and antakarana and antaratma the knowledge that has been provided to you by the Atma, which is being projected to you. Utilize that and identify all the objective knowledge is one, will give you the progress subjectively towards one. Beautiful it is. No? That is, I feel. That's enough. Is called the waking state. Waking state, just to be awake, just to be keeping your eyes, awake in the sense, all the indriyas alert. For what? What is that alert? No excesses. But what is necessary should be attached. Jagrati. Jagaruk. Cunning. One should be cunning like a fox, they say. Not in the character. In the sense that attention and jagrati should be the aware. Anytime, any fraction of a second, anything can happen. Catch it. That's called a waking state. Waking state. Jagte raho. Or see, now you take any language, any sentence on that waking. You cannot. Jagna. Be awake. Hey, be awake. With the eyes open also one can sleep. He's not awake. Not keeping the eyes awake, open. Even if your eyes are closed, one is awake. He is telling Jagte raho. He did not say don't close your eyes. He says Jagte raho. Awake, be aware. Be aware what is happening around you. Be aware. That awareness. Jagna. It's a beautiful word. No? Jagna. Awake. Rise up. When you rise up, no, you're not sleeping because you already slept. From the sleeping, your rising up is called Jagna. Is it not? Jagna is not just sitting. No. Jagna means you are sleeping now, you wake up. It's Jagna. Wake. Wake up. So wake up is that the status where be alert. Constant alertness. Alertness to what? Alertness not to commit any mistakes. Alertness not to create that status of contamination inside you. Alertness in order to keep dharmam at all times. Alertness not to get attracted to adharmam. Alertness not to excessively enjoy the pleasures of the sensory system, sensory experience and experiments, even though it may be wonderful. Enjoy it, transmit it, finish it. Don't have any more attachment towards that, attraction towards that. Alertness not to have attraction. Alertness not to get bound by. Who is binding you? You are binding yourself with so many things. This we have explained earlier also. Yes? Alert not to get bound. Be alert not to get tied up somewhere. Then you won't be able to move. Alertness is that. That's called waking. What is waking? Waking in the status of dharma. To be in the dharma at all times. Wake up all in dharma. So that realize what is that? Experience, experimental experience. Alert while experimental experiencing. You do not do excesses. Because excesses will create excesses in you. Imbalance in you. And once you create that imbalance, in order to remove that imbalance, that reversal process is not possible. Nowhere reversal process is possible. It has to be a corrective measure only can, corrective measure only can remove that what has been absorbed excessively. It cannot be brought back. So in order to remove that, you have to take another action. So what happened? You have to stall dharmam here. You have to take a path of adharmam. Then in order to remove that, you remove that. Then again come back to dharmam. First of all, you lost the time. Second, you lost the process. Third, you lost the consciousness. Fourth, you lost the purity. Fifth, you lost the chances for merging with the Atman. So you have to take another birth. It's a process. So is it not better to be alert? Awake. Satyam. Awake to the Satyam. You don't have to be worrying about it. To be alert, not to be worrying. Alertness is the characteristics of the... Why? Because? Why we have got a characteristics of being alert? Because Atma is projecting its consciousness and jnana. You are not creating anything. Atma has already provided you with the jnana. Only thing, you utilized it to its senses, that's all. As the gross body will accept only to the jnanam to that extent, depending upon its capacity and to the requirement, you should analyze only to the capacity and requirement. Alright? If you use it, unproportionate utility of it, which is creating contamination in our life and in our janma, and papa karma, that's called papa karma. Is it clear? Am I clear? Rise to the... I think we should stop now. Is it too much now? Too much, yes. Om Shanti.